start getting to the ski resorts and stuff in Colorado. And we're kind of at the low point at the end of the Eisenhower Tunnel if you've headed west, but we are heading east. So we're going to show you the whole Eisenhower Tunnel stretch from the low point in Silverthorne up through the tunnel and then down the pass. So come along with us in the ride. We are in a 2019 Jayco Seneca with a Freightliner.
Yeah, so a couple things about driving in Colorado. You need to have chains or auto socks if you're going to be driving in the winter time. This is the first week of November, and we've already had a pretty decent couple of snowstorms already. And so, actually, I believe it starts in the end of September that you need to start carrying chains or auto socks. Auto Sock is the brand that we actually carry for our rig. Do your research, make sure you're comfortable with what you have. If you've never put on chains before, you can see these are all 30-minute chain up areas for the pass. Chains are actually fairly challenging to put on. Number one, they're heavy. You got to have a place to store them. And number two, they're just fairly challenging. We have chains on our farm tractor back home, and I've had more than one choice word when I put on chains. Be sure you're wearing gloves. You get your fingers caught up, and take your time. Be patient. Don't get frustrated. You know, you probably don't want to do the first go when you're climbing a mountain pass like this and then stuck alongside of the road with a 30-minute time constraint. But if you do cause a holdup, if you get stuck, it's up to a $650 fine. So it's serious. They take it serious here in Colorado. They don't want people to block traffic because it really affects the traffic flow for all the, especially right now. Today is not a huge ski day. It's a Monday midday. We have had some snow, but the snow isn't great yet. So, you know, keep track of the patterns. If you're going to be going down the mountain or up the mountain on Sunday afternoon, you are going to hit significant traffic in the wintertime because you got all the ski traffic. You know, Friday afternoon, anytime, you know, after I'd say noon, you're going to hit significant traffic. So if you can avoid, you know, Friday afternoon between noon and say, you know, just Friday afternoon completely all the way on. And if you can avoid Sunday afternoon completely, you're going to be a lot happier for it. So we're going about 45 miles an hour. We're at about 15 RPMs. We're just starting to stall a little bit. We're in 5th gear. So I'm going to drop it to 4th gear here. And we'll pick up a little bit. We can see the needle on our speedometer picking back up. And we're holding steady at about 40 to 45 miles per hour, which is a very comfortable speed for the pass here. They want vehicles to use the right lane. The far right lane, you're going to see a lot of real heavy semi-trucks that have big loads, sometimes undersized rigs, really designed for flat country. And so I try to stay in the middle lane, although if it's open, I move into the right lane as long as there's nothing in the right lane. It gives everybody else more room, so be courteous when you're climbing a pass like this. Recognize that these guys are doing the best that they can. Don't be frustrated with them. You know, it's just not easy taking these passes. Everybody needs to be patient and tolerant of one another. There's engine damage that can occur. You got brake damage that can occur, tire problems. We keep track of our tire temperature. This time of year, we don't really need to worry too much, but our tire temperatures are all in the 50s and really comfortable. But just remember that you know, tire temperature is important. As it relates to brakes, you know, we have air brake suspension, and so, you know, I can see the air here, both in the front and the rear brakes. It tells me how much air, and I'm in the white there. I got plenty of air on my brakes, you know, coming up into the up to the summit here of the pass. The other thing that can happen is not just running out of air, but I mean, there's still a disc and a brake pad in there, and if the discs get too hot, they warp, and that's when, you know, people's brakes go out, so to speak. And so whenever you can, you know, if you have a Jake brake on your diesel vehicle, you know, allow that Jake brake to do some of the work. In our case, it's an exhaust brake. It's not truly a Jake brake, but here we're starting to stall again. You can kind of hear the engine. You hear it starting to stall. The speedometer's dropped to 35. I'm going to switch it down into third. And you can see you get a little bit more power now. The speedometer's starting to climb. You can hear that engine starting to work. It's doing it for us. It's making the change. The RPMs are up to about 25. Nice cool day. The temp is, you know, no more than 200 here on the water. It's great. And we're comfortably ascending the mountain, giving everybody in the left lane plenty of time to get around us. I think I probably feel comfortable at, no, never mind. There's a vehicle that should not be in the right lane that's going up into the right lane. Probably frustrated with us, wanting to pass us, but not very patient.
And he's no far from near Mountain Town, so.
No, he's not. And, you know, you get that a lot. I mean, you know, we take this pass, you know, multiple times a year. Been taking this pass, you know, since I was a teenager, really, coming out here. You know, there are a lot of folks that take the pass too fast. They push their vehicles too hard, and they overheat on the way up. And then they take it too fast going down, and the rotors warp, they overheat their brakes, and they have problems that way. So those are the, you know, common reasons. Now we're kind of ascending here again. I'm going to get back in the left lane. You can see this truck here has got its hazards on. It's doing the best it can. Here you go, no chains. You know,
that's for commercial vehicles, but they are telling you no chains, the fines that they have for commercial vehicles, but it applies to residential, or, you know, our recreational vehicles as well. Once the winter conditions are bad enough, all vehicles, even passenger cars, have to have all-wheel drive or winter tires. That's the requirement to even be up here, or four-wheel drive vehicles. So your regular passenger cars can't just be up here like that. And then if the weather conditions are bad enough, everybody has to have chains with them, or in Colorado's case, auto socks work. That also works for Utah, but those chain laws are in effect because people have caused so many accidents and problems. So if you're found without them, like Jeremy said, you have that $600 fine if you're found without them. If you cause an accident, you will be at fault and paying for whatever the damage is of all the damage that has been caused. So it's no joke here. They take it seriously.
Yeah, they do, and for good reason. There have been a lot of people that have been, you know, hurt from accidents, or that have had, you know, compromised the property damage, and the state, frankly, wants to make sure that this thoroughfare, which is a major travel thoroughfare, stays open for its highly lucrative tourism industry. I mean, the resorts depend upon people being able to get up to them, and that's a big tourist. It's very lucrative here, and if we got commercial vehicles or recreational vehicles or personal vehicles that are holding up traffic, that's you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars in lost money there. So, you know, you got to know about it. It is a beautiful pass. You know, this you know, pass is always kind of mesmerizing to me. I've always found it to be particularly beautiful, and although it's stressful, I try to take in the beauty and take a couple deep breaths, relax, and enjoy the ride. That's what we're here to do. Make sure you got a vehicle that can handle it. We were just lamenting about a V10 gas, gosh, what was that, Amber? I think it was a Thor, can't remember the model, but it was a gas.
Or something.
V10, yeah, 4 wins, maybe that was it. At any rate, that vehicle was totally underpowered for mountain passes. I mean, in my mind, if you're going to be doing any mountain driving and you have a gas rig, you know, frankly, I don't really think it's a great idea. I think you should stick with flatland and enjoy what you can with the flatland if that's what you can afford. You know, the other option is go with a 5th wheeler and get yourself, you know, a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton pickup to pull it that's diesel. But you know, doing a gas class A or a gas class C, you know, in mountain passes like this, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it just is inadequate. It puts too much strain on the vehicle, and frankly, you know, we took that V10 and we couldn't get more than 15-20 miles per hour. I honestly felt unsafe. The commercial vehicles were whizzing by us at, you know, speeds that made me feel uncomfortable. So make sure you got the right vehicle. This, you know, I'm not a huge fan of this Jayco, but I sure am a huge fan of the Freightliner and the diesel. This is it's a phenomenal chassis. It's a phenomenal engine. It's got a Cummins engine in here. By the way, this is a brake check area, so if you get to the top and you're concerned about your brakes for any reason, you know, pull over, check it out, make sure you're feeling comfortable. Once you hit this tunnel here, this tunnel is the Eisenhower coming up, the Johnson tunnel going down, built in 73 and 79. Once you hit the tunnel, you're going to be going downhill on the outskirts of this tunnel. Word about the tunnel. The tunnel is one of those places that causes a lot of people stress and anxiety. I think you know, there's several different reasons for it. One is that when the traffic does get bad here on that Friday evening, Sunday evening during the snow season, frankly, even during the summer season when people are coming up for hiking and biking and so forth, the tunnel can get really, really congested. And that means it's touch and go, stop and go inside of the tunnel. You can get stuck in the tunnel for a considerable period of time. It is a long tunnel. They do a really good job to try to make sure that it gets cleared. They have video surveillance throughout the tunnel to make sure if you want to check in and see whether or not it looks really bad. There is the Us6 Bypass that you can always take if you have anxiety about tunnels, or if you have a high load. The limit is 1311. You know, we're at 13.1 with the Jayco Seneca. We get, you know, I have an antenna, a 4G antenna that I like to have above the air handler systems above, you know, the HVAC system above, which goes about to 13.5-ish. So I'm very comfortable at 13.11. I know for sure that 13.11 will be okay, but you may have a taller rig, you may have mounted something on the top. Just be aware of those limitations. There's always a little bit of wiggle room, but that's the limit. That's the legal limit. If you were to hit something or scrape above and cause any property damage, you could be liable for that. Not to mention, you know, they have electrical up there, and so you could cause a fire or some other problem. We always reverse the air inside when we go through the tunnel. You know, as a physician, I see that there is a little bit, you know, they do put ventilation systems in here, but there's a small increase in carbon monoxide, exhaust fumes that can be noxious and cause headaches. So we just recirculate the air with our HVAC system while we're driving through. And then you're out, you see the light. This is the area right on the other side. So this is now the east side of the tunnel here, where a lot of people will do some backcountry skiing. There is a lift here, but immediately you can see the downhill grades the next 44 miles, and it's asking how are your brakes. You know, so I really like to try to stay in 3rd gear as often as I can, opening up to 4th, maybe 5th gear if we get into a flat area. You can hear my RPMs are pushing up a little bit. That gets a little high there for me. So I'll punch my brakes. But when you're hitting your brakes, you're only punching your brakes. You're not riding your brakes. If you ride your brakes, you're going to warp your rotors. and that's when you're going to start to have problems. Plus, you wear through your pads more frequently, and you're going through your compressor, you know, so all that is not good. So you're punching your brakes as you're going downhill. I far too often see commercial vehicles that don't know what they're doing. They're just riding their brakes all the way down. Not a good idea. Here's the chairlift for Loveland Pass Ski. Looks like they're open, running here first week in November. Pretty cool. Looks like they have some decent snow there. So, if that's your thing, they're open for business. This is where I really listen to my engine. You know, I want to know what it's doing. This is part of the reason why I like having the engine up front. You know, in a diesel pusher, you don't hear it quite as well. I want to know what the engine's doing. I want to hear those RPMs. And as they're creeping up, I can hear that real high frequency sound. You can hear it's a lower frequency right now. But as I can hear it start going up, that's when I need to think about punching my brakes. By keeping it in third gear, I know that I'm not really going any faster than, you know, third gear, and that reduces my number of times that I do need to punch my brakes. One thing I always do before a drive like this, where I'm going to be taking mountain passes too, is I always top off my tires, making sure that they're up. In this particular rig, I like to have 100 psi on each of the tires, cold pressure. You know, as you can see, I'm in the 112 to 115 range on operating pressure. I've been driving for a couple hours now, but it's a cold day. It's only 39 degrees ambient temperature. So here you can see this is a brake cooling area. If you're the kind of person that, you know, you're real excited and you took the pass fast, you've been punching your brakes pretty good, and you're starting to smell your brakes, then you probably need to think about pulling over for cooling and letting them cool down a little bit. Turn off the engine, have a little picnic, have something to eat, get a drink of water, use the restroom, take it easy. You know, this is not the time to try to push the vehicle. That's where people get into dangerous situations where they push their vehicle too hard. A good diesel you know, pusher, or a Super C diesel like I prefer, those vehicles are going to be able to take this pass well. And for the record, anyone who's listening that is a Class A only resort, the reason why you should also allow Super C diesels is because not only are they beautiful to look at, but they're also better for mountain driving than any other vehicle on the market for recreational vehicles. We chose to go with the Super C diesel, not because we couldn't afford a diesel pusher, but because that was our preferred modality for driving. And there's some amazing Super C diesels. The Renegade, man, if you are listening from Renegade and you want me to talk about your vehicle, I would die to have my hands on the steering wheel of a Renegade. That is my dream recreational vehicle. It's got all that this vehicle has with the Freightliner and the Cummins and the air brake suspension and everything else that this fantastic vehicle has, but is a huge step up in terms of quality from the Jayco. So now we're just coasting along here. We're in third gear. We're doing great. This is a 5 to 6% grade. Believe it or not, we've taken mini grades that have been much steeper than this. 8, 9% grades, sometimes even 10% grades, which are rare. We have taken those with this rig, and we're very comfortable right now. It's cruising downhill.